Everyone tells you power is about being good, about fairness, kindness, justice. But look closer. Those ideas are fairy tales told to the weak, lullabies sung to keep you asleep while others feast. Machiavelli knew this 5 centuries ago. In The Prince, he stripped power of its pretty mask and showed it for what it really is: manipulation, perception, fear, and force. And the deeper you read, the more horrifying the secret becomes. Morality fails. Always. Florence was a city of masks. Behind the cathedrals, paintings, and soaring hymns, it was a battlefield of families, daggers, and conspiracies. The Medici, the Borgia, the Sforza, each clawed for survival. Machiavelli was no armchair philosopher. He lived inside this chaos. He saw priests burned alive for purity, while corrupt men took thrones. He watched promises of morality shatter the moment ambition entered the room. He understood that those who cling to goodness unarmed are crushed like lambs in a field of wolves. This is the first secret. Power is not about justice, it is about survival. The good ruler who refuses cruelty when cruelty is necessary does not remain ruler for long. History is littered with corpses of leaders who believed virtue was enough. Their goodness did not save them. It doomed them. Machiavelli dares to say the unsayable. It is better for a ruler to be feared than loved, if he cannot be both. Why? Because love is fragile. It fades when fortunes turn. Fear, however, is reliable. It is a chain that binds even the ungrateful. He does not mean sadism. He does not mean wanton cruelty. He means this: fear protects you where kindness cannot. But here lies the brilliance. Machiavelli never rejects appearances. He insists rulers must look virtuous. They must speak of justice, charity, mercy. People want to believe in morality, so give them the illusion. But behind that mask, wield iron. Smile with words, strike with actions. To show only cruelty is to invite rebellion. To show only kindness is to invite exploitation. To blend them is to master power. This duality is why morality fails. Because morality is rigid and power is fluid. Morality demands consistency, always merciful, always honest, always fair. But life is war. One day mercy saves you, the next day it kills you. One day honesty wins trust, the next it destroys alliances. Those who cling to morality's absolutes cannot adapt. They break. Power belongs to those who bend, shift, and act according to necessity, not commandments. Consider Savonarola, the priest who ruled Florence through moral fire. He preached purity, condemned corruption, burned vanities in the square. For a time, people adored him. But when famine came, when France abandoned him, his moral thunder could not feed bellies or protect borders. The crowd turned. He was hanged, burned, his ashes scattered. Morality did not save him. It blinded him. Machiavelli watched and learned. Now consider Cesare Borgia, the very image of ruthlessness. He lied, deceived, executed without hesitation. He used cruelty like a surgeon's knife, sharp, targeted, effective. When one of his mercenaries betrayed him, Borgia staged a spectacle. He left the man's corpse in the public square, hacked into pieces as a warning. The people shivered, but they also obeyed. And then, to balance fear, he lowered taxes, rebuilt towns, secured stability. Fear enforced his will, generosity earned his reputation. This was not morality, it was mastery. Machiavelli admired him deeply, though even Borgia was eventually undone, not by morality, but by fortune's betrayal when his father the Pope died too soon. The lesson is brutal. Morality is not useless, but it is decoration. Power is the structure. Morality paints the walls, hangs the curtains, plays the music to soothe the people, but power decides whether the building stands or falls. Those who mistake decoration for foundation are doomed. Think of today. Politicians speak endlessly of justice, fairness, equality. But look beneath the speeches. Every alliance, every handshake, every law is calibrated for power, to win votes, to secure donors, to weaken rivals, to control perception. The morality is packaging. The contents are survival. Even in your own life, this truth poisons the air you breathe. At work, bosses praise team spirit while cutting staff to save profit. Friends swear loyalty, then vanish when you no longer serve their needs. Lovers promise forever, then leave when their desires shift. These betrayals are not aberrations, they are the rule. People act not from morality, but from necessity. If you are useful, they stay. If you are not, they go. Morality is a story they tell themselves to sleep at night. This is the heart of Machiavelli's secret. Power works through necessity. Morality fails because it ignores necessity. To believe that goodness is enough is to walk unarmed into the battlefield of existence. To survive, you must do as rulers do. Wear morality like a mask, but never confuse it with armor. And so the question becomes, how do you, an ordinary person, live in this jungle without becoming a monster? How do you wield power without being destroyed by it? How do you bend morality into a tool without letting it deceive you into weakness? That is the real secret of the prince. And to unlock it, we must go deeper into fear, love, deception, and the architecture of control itself. If power is survival dressed in the costume of morality, then the next question is, how do you design that costume so convincingly that people never see the iron fist beneath it? Machiavelli's answer was both terrifying and brilliant. Control perception, and you control reality. For the masses do not live by truth, they live by appearances. They do not follow what you are, they follow what they believe you are. This is why he warns that rulers must not simply be ruthless, they must be ruthlessly theatrical. Cesare Borgia did not just punish his disloyal general, he turned the execution into a spectacle. He knew cruelty in the dark is feared by a few, but cruelty displayed like theater reshapes an entire population's imagination. A ruler cannot kill every traitor, but he can kill one traitor so memorably that no one else dares to test him. This is not morality. This is stagecraft. Think of politics today. Leaders know every word will be clipped, every gesture repeated on endless loops of media. The show is more important than the deed. If you appear strong, people assume you are strong. If you appear generous, people assume you are merciful. The show is reality because perception dictates behavior. This is why Machiavelli insisted a prince must appear virtuous, even if in reality he is anything but. Yet this is where morality collapses again. Because morality requires truth. It insists on authenticity, on living consistently with ideals. Power requires masks. It insists on adaptability, on betraying ideals when necessary. You cannot both live by strict morality and wield enduring power. The two are oil and water, and when forced to choose, power will always drown morality. But this does not mean power is limitless. Machiavelli warns that cruelty must be swift, precise, and rare. Indulge in sadism, and you breed hatred, and hatred is the one force more dangerous than rebellion. Fear can stabilize, but hatred poisons. Thus, power is not chaos, it is calculation. He admired rulers who used cruelty as a scalpel, not a hammer. This is where many tyrants fail. They mistake terror for strength, when in fact, it is restraint and timing that make power endure. Consider the Medici family. They were not only bankers but masters of subtle power. They controlled Florence not simply with soldiers, but with patronage. They bought loyalty by funding artists, churches, scholars. To the people, they appeared as benefactors of beauty. Behind the scenes, they bribed officials, manipulated elections, silenced dissent. This duality, soft velvet glove over a steel fist, allowed them to dominate a city that outwardly celebrated liberty. Here is another paradox. Morality, when weaponized as image, strengthens power. A ruler who pretends to be moral gains trust. People want to believe in goodness, so they project their hopes onto their leaders. Even when lies are exposed, many prefer the lie over facing a world without morality. This is why corrupt leaders can be caught in scandal after scandal and still survive. The appearance of morality, once burned into the public mind, is almost impossible to erase. So what does this mean for you, living not as a prince but as a person? It means you must stop believing words at face value. Judge people not by their declarations of morality, but by the necessity driving their actions. When someone swears loyalty, ask, what do they gain from me? When someone preaches virtue, ask, what power are they hiding behind this sermon? This mindset is not cynicism, it is clarity. It protects you from becoming prey. At the same time, it means you too must master appearances. In work, do not show every ambition nakedly. Cloak it in service, in team spirit, in dedication. Let others believe you are loyal to their goals while quietly aligning them to yours. In relationships, do not expose every wound. Project strength, confidence, calm. People follow those who look steady, not those who reveal chaos. Appearance is not deception. It is armor. But Machiavelli goes even deeper. He argues that fortune, the unpredictable chaos of life, decides half of what happens to us. The other half is our skill in adapting. Those who cling to morality as a rigid map cannot adapt. When fortune shifts, they break. Those who bend, deceive, improvise, they ride fortune like a wave. Power is not the absence of chaos. It is the ability to bend with it. Think of the workplace. The moral employee says, I will work hard, follow the rules, and loyalty will protect me. Fortune shifts. Layoffs come. Automation replaces jobs. That morality crumbles. The Machiavellian employee says, rules are tools. I will build alliances, gather information, make myself indispensable to those with influence. When fortune shifts, they survive, not because they were more moral, but because they were more adaptable. Think of relationships. The moral lover says, I will give endlessly, and that will make them stay. Fortune shifts, desires change, people leave. The Machiavellian lover says, I will give, but I will also guard. I will not invest blindly. I will recognize when love turns to exploitation, and I will leave first. One survives, the other shatters. And so we return to the brutal lesson. Morality as an absolute is brittle. Power as necessity is fluid. Those who refuse to see this, those who cling to rigid ideals, are crushed. Those who accept it, who wear morality as a mask, but hold survival as their foundation, endure. But endurance is not enough. Machiavelli wanted more than mere survival. He wanted mastery. He wanted rulers to not just cling to power, but to wield it brilliantly. To do this, he crafted principles so dark, so unsentimental, that they still shock today. Principles you can use, not to become a tyrant, but to stop being crushed by the illusions that bind most people. And so the path deepens. Fear, love, cruelty, deception, these are not abstract theories. They are tools. And in the final part of this journey, we will build them into a manual. Machiavelli's secret rules for surviving and mastering a world where morality fails. Now we come to the part Machiavelli himself could never write openly, the dark manual. His book was dressed as advice for princes, but beneath that surface it is a handbook for anyone who wishes to stop being prey. What follows is not moral, and it is not comforting. But if you dare to use it, you will see the world differently, and you will no longer walk into its traps blind. Rule 1. Appearances over truth. Machiavelli hammers this endlessly. People judge not by what is real, but by what they see. You may be ruthless inside, but if you appear generous, you gain loyalty. You may be calculating, but if you smile, you gain trust. Even today, the world rewards image. In business, the best product does not always win. The best story does. In politics, the most competent leader rarely rises. The most charismatic face does. In relationships, the kindest heart is often ignored. The most confident presence commands attention. Truth is weak. Appearance directs action. So craft your image deliberately. This is not lying. It is survival. Rule 2. Fear is stronger than love. Love depends on gratitude. Gratitude fades. Fear depends on memory, and memory is long. A single decisive act that makes people respect your boundaries will last longer than 100 small kindnesses. Do not misunderstand. Cruelty for its own sake destroys you, but measured severity builds walls no one dares cross. At work, set limits early. In relationships, do not tolerate repeated disrespect. Show once, clearly, that crossing you has consequences. You may still be loved, but you will definitely be respected. Rule 3. Cruelty must be surgical. Random cruelty breeds chaos, but targeted cruelty breeds order. The Romans executed 1 in 10 soldiers who mutinied. Brutal, but effective. Cesare Borgia eliminated his corrupt mercenary with theatrical violence, and stability followed. The principle is clear. Do not punish everyone. Punish visibly, and then stop. Use decisive moments to shape perception. In your own life, this means choosing battles. If you confront every insult, you look petty. If you confront one decisively, you look formidable. People will remember not the insult, but the reaction. Rule 4. Fortune favors adaptability. Machiavelli said fortune controls half of life, but the other half is skill. You cannot control the storm, but you can learn to sail. The rigid sink, the flexible survive. In practice, stop expecting permanence. Jobs vanish, relationships evolve, allies betray. Instead of clinging to ideals, build resilience. Learn new skills constantly. Keep multiple alliances. Diversify your sources of power. When the storm comes, you will not drown. You will shift course. Rule 5. Morality is decoration. This may be the hardest to accept. Morality is not the foundation of society. It is the mask. A leader must appear moral to keep the crowd calm, but behind that appearance lies calculation. And so too in your life. Speak of values. Display kindness. But do not let values blind you when they conflict with survival. The moral friend says, I must always forgive. The Machiavellian friend says, I forgive when it strengthens bonds, and I cut ties when forgiveness makes me weak. One becomes a martyr, the other survives. This is not advice to become monstrous. It is advice to become conscious. The monster is the one who believes he is good while acting from naked ambition. The conscious player is the one who knows exactly what he is doing and why. Awareness is armor. Naivety is a leash. Now let us test these rules against the modern world. Look at corporations. They speak endlessly of values, sustainability, equality, justice, and yet behind closed doors, they cut corners, crush unions, manipulate governments. If you judge them by their words, you are deceived. If you judge them by necessity, you see clearly they act to survive and expand. The lesson? Judge structures not by their speeches, but by their outcomes. Look at politics. A candidate weeps on stage promising to care for the poor. Another vows transparency. But who funds them? Who benefits if they win? Machiavelli teaches, follow necessity, not slogans. If their survival depends on donors, then their morality will bend toward donors. If their survival depends on military strength, their morality will bend toward war. Do not be hypnotized by speeches. Watch necessity. Look at your own relationships. Someone promises loyalty. Another swears honesty. But promises made in comfort are worth nothing. Watch what happens under pressure. Do they choose you when it costs them? Do they stand when it is risky? Appearances may deceive, but necessity always reveals. Here lies the paradox Machiavelli wanted us to grasp. Morality is not meaningless. It is useful. But it is useful as performance, not as principle. This does not mean you must abandon kindness. It means you must wield kindness consciously, knowing when it strengthens you and when it weakens you. You must choose when to forgive, when to cut off, when to smile, when to bare teeth. You must stop being a pawn of morality and start being its master. And yet the danger is real. Power corrupts not because it tempts cruelty, but because it tempts blindness. When you succeed at using appearances, when people obey you out of fear, when your adaptability keeps you alive, you may forget that fortune still rules half of life. You may believe yourself invincible. That is the fatal error. Borgia made it. Napoleon made it. Even empires make it. The storm always comes. The question is not whether you can stop it, but whether you can bend with it. So what is the final lesson of the prince? It is not that morality is useless. It is that morality alone is suicide. It is not that cruelty is power. It is that cruelty without measure is destruction. It is not that fortune decides all. It is that fortune decides much, but your adaptability decides the rest. The true secret is this: power belongs to those who can live in duality, to be both lion and fox, to wear morality while wielding necessity, to inspire hope while preparing for betrayal. And perhaps the most unsettling truth: you do not need to be a prince to live like one. These rules apply in offices, in families, in friendships, in love. Anywhere humans gather, power plays unfold. If you cling to ideals blindly, you will be crushed. If you cloak yourself in appearances and act from necessity, you will not only survive, you may master the game. So will you keep living as prey, waiting for morality to protect you? Or will you learn what rulers have always known, that morality fails, but power endures? The choice is yours. Comment with the mask you've chosen to wear, like if this stripped away your illusions. Share this with someone who still believes the fairy tales. And subscribe, if you dare, for more dark philosophy that refuses to lie to you. This was The Prince's Secret: how power really works and why morality fails. Now step into the world with open eyes. Smile when you must, strike when you must. And remember, morality is the costume. Power is the body beneath it.